If we think about the doctor side of the world, I think the more targeted we get, the better. We can really do things in a deterministic way from an identity perspective, and then we want to read the signals so that we're literally doing kind of a read, respond action. For the doctor, I think the more personalized, the better, the more targeted, the better, and the more specific we can read the data signals, the better everybody is. Now, the issue there from a data perspective is all about timeliness. So when we think about claims data in oncology, as an example, we might have a week-long delay, weeks, sometimes even I was talking to one of my data partners earlier today, a month over in oncology from kind of the reading of the scans to the diagnostic code to the treatment decision. And then you can go all the way to a lab signal, which might take a week, on a genetic test. That's obviously really important for a brand to capitalize on. To the extent that we can get something that's super timely, that's where really the marketing magic lies on the HCP side. Now, if we shift to consumer for a minute, everything that you do from how you treat the data to how you activate on the data to how you measure, it needs to be a balance of the privacy aspect and the personalization aspect. And they really need to be evenly weighed on the scale. The only other thing I'd say about that is that we at IQVIA, because we are the healthcare data company and we're such a giant in the space, we really put privacy first. I think that you have to break that down into a few of the different mountains to climb. I think the first mountain to climb is the regulatory landscape, right? So if we look at state privacy laws, they're changing faster than ever. More states than not have those privacy laws, and when you think about using it for marketing, you really have to look at your audience creation in that context. You have to say, you know, in California I can do this versus in Delaware I can do that, and that creates a huge layer of complexity that requires a connected, rich data set. The next is really that identity spine, and I love that you use that word because the more connected the data is, the better off everybody is to create that personalized experience and be able to balance privacy. The last kind of thing that you need to think about is how you feed that all back into the measurement cycle, right? You really need to be able to follow patient 1, 2, 3, 4 across their journey and connect it to outcomes in order to figure out the return on investment. And that's what all brands want in the end of the day. They want a spine that lets you figure out who their patients might be while balancing that privacy in a way that then pulls it through to the things that matter to them, like script lift and outcomes. I think that just how siloed it is continues to amaze me. The budgets are different, the buyers are different. Sometimes the buyers are even different by person, by channel, by individual customer set. So brands are living in a siloed world that they don't want to live in, right? And the question is kind of how can we use this connected and consolidated data set to make that happen? Some examples that we've actually been talking to people at CES about are, can we do a retrospective look about where there was overlap between HCPs and consumers and then actually quantify what that value is, because we believe really firmly there's value there. And then going forward, where can we kind of create surround sound? So for example, if we create an HCP audience, can we in a de-identified, privacy compliant way find the relevant consumers so everybody's hearing the same message? And it facilitates the conversation that benefits your brand in a way that feels informed. Vice versa as well, if you have patients, is there some way to kind of say their HCPs are likely to be in this kind of category? Now that's obviously much harder to go reverse because of the de-identified privacy compliance that's required to do it. But we want to make sure that to the extent we can create surround sound that we do and that we quantify it, because brands are going to want to know the ROI. The dollar shouldn't remain distinct, the audiences shouldn't remain distinct, the measurement shouldn't remain distinct. Like the coolest thing that I think what we do from an analytics standpoint is a true ROI study, taking the sales force and the programmatic and the CTV and all of the different exposure data, combining that with the wealth of IQVIA data, again, using all that privacy compliance, and then creating the ROI of this channel for this brand over the last 6 months is that. And that's, I think, how we really want to be looking at measurement and how we really want to be thinking about the value that the dollar we're putting in. One of the things I've been speaking most passionately about recently is actually the NPPA subsegment. So I know I go to the doctor and most often I see the NP or the PA, right? And we've actually done some really cool analytics, and we did an acquisition of Point of Care Network, which is specific to NPPAs, and they found that 40% of scripts are actually being driven by NPPAs. And that's agnostic to therapeutic area. It's in therapeutic areas you'd think, like psych and immunology, and it's in therapeutic areas you don't think, like oncology. We can understand that in a way that's better and easier than before, because now we can infer specialty of the NPPAs. When you sign up as a doctor, you literally go to school and your badge, so to speak, says oncologist. When you become an NPPA, it literally either says medical or surgical. But IQVIA has leveraged algorithms and the power of our data to now be able to say that NPPA works in an immunology office, or that NPPA works in a dermatology office. So that's kind of hurdle one we've recently overcome. Hurdle two we've recently overcome is what I'd call true script. I'm just gonna give you a for instance. The doctor has 4 offices, one on Main Street, one on Broad Street, and let's say one at the hospital. So we know from IQVIA's reference data that they're not at the one on Main Street on Tuesday, but somehow the scripts are coming through that Dr. Main Street is writing. Because we know their behavior and because we now understand the NPPA, we can see that as a ghost write. And we know that the NPPA is driving that script. So when we think about things I'm excited about, I would be really excited about elevating the NPPA as somebody that we should market towards and giving them what they need to better power their patients. Because the other thing I learned, I've actually talked to NPPAs and we've done some thought leadership with them. They need different things than the doctors, and they need different things than the patients, and they're actually closer to the patients. So they look at the patients and think about not only the script and the diagnosis, but is this patient going to have a quality of life? When they call me up the doctor's office at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday after we're closed and they are having stomach distress, can I expect that? How am I gonna manage that? So how we engage them and market to them, I actually think can have more impact on the patient and their day-to-day and how their care is managed. On the consumer side, we actually have also been doing cool, innovative things to figure out if we could market to caregivers in a way that's appropriately de-identified. We have contextualization of HCP data on a lot of relevant peer-reviewed journal sites. We were actually leveraging that data to in some indications like Alzheimer's, or I was talking to somebody earlier today about vaccines. So can we kind of leverage that data to do the care team from both angles? The care team from the patient's point of view and the care team in the doctor's office. That's not just the MD who's saying, you have this and here's a script you got.